Hello everyone, Gabe here from the Uplay team here at Massive, and today we're excited to jump into some more Ghost Recon Breakpoint stuff and specifically show you some more of the settings and the work the team has done to make sure that you can play the game the way you want. Everything from gameplay to controls, video, interface, and accessibility. So without any other delay, let's dive in. First up, when it comes to your overall game experience, you can enable or disable guided mode. Enabling it makes it so that your markers are always displayed and you aren't searching to find your objective. Disabling it is for those of you that are really looking to explore Aurora and use your navigational skills to find your targets and objectives. Diving a little bit further into the settings, let's take a look at gameplay. Right off the bat, you can show or hide locations that you haven't discovered within the TAC map. In default aiming mode, you can select either iron sight or over the shoulder, basically adjusting if you want to go with a first person or third person default position. In toggle aim mode, you can select if you want this to only apply to your current weapon or all of them you have equipped. You'll also be able to enable or disable automatic adjustments of the camera when leaving cover, and if you want your camera to recenter when you move while parachuting. There's also a photo mode that you can enable or disable, so if you're keen on taking some awesome screenshots, make sure you enable this and please share them with us so we can bask in all their beauty. Finally, we have the PvP matchmaking region, where you can leave it on to auto-detect to pick the best region for you or manually select your preferred region. Within interface, you'll find a ton of different options that allow you to customize the information that is displayed to you all the way down to specific details, or you can select from a range of presets. The first option we see is colorblind modes that allow you to select from 3 different modes depending on what works best for you, and then adjust the contrast within these modes, again, depending on what works best for you. Right after that, we have a few preset options, and within the size one, you'll be able to change the size of the HUD depending on your screen type. In display, you can select from the various presets that determine how many elements of the HUD are displayed to you. But if you're more of a custom setting type person and like to tweak every detail, then oh, do we have a lot of options for you. Jump into the crosshair setting to adjust how and when you want your crosshair to appear, and similarly for the stamina bar, you can either fully display it or have it appear according to the game context. Next up, you can customize how much information you want displayed about your weapons, ammos, buffs, and items, and then also if you want your class technique to appear on the HUD. You can tweak things like how your mission reminders appear, whether or not the detection gauge is visible, and if you want warning messages to appear on your screen. There are also options that allow you to adjust the 3D markers for loot, and you can also enable or disable loot notifications for when you find new gear. The XP module can also be turned on or off, and you also have some settings to toy around with when it comes to how markers are displayed on enemies, allies, teammates, objectives, communications, and locations. When it comes to the minimap, there are a ton of options you can pick and choose for what information you want displayed on it. With the map settlement options, you can adjust the background behind the settlements, and you can adjust if you want to see the co-op module and how it appears. Notifications can be turned off if that's something you want, and you can also adjust when your current location appears or if you want to hide it altogether. The size of the hints can also be adjusted or disabled completely, and similarly, you can adjust several options related to the subtitles or disable them altogether. You have 2 input reminders on foot and vehicles that you can tweak to your liking or disable altogether. And toggle interface allows you to disable and enable the interface shortcut. Finally, we come to the ultra-wide or multi-monitor option, where you can select how you want the HUD to appear on your monitor setup. In terms of text chat, you can customize the way it appears with everything from chat size, background opacity, whether it auto displays with new messages or not, expanded view, and enable or disable the profanity filter. Of course, if you want to, you also have the option to disable chat altogether. Next up, we have the settings that are all focused on your keyboard and mouse. First and foremost, we have customized controls. Heading into that will open up an area where you'll see a bunch of different sub-menus for different aspects of the game that you can fully customize to your preferences. Instantly, you'll notice that there are 2 columns, so you have the ability to add 2 key bindings to each action. On some of them, you can also swap between the type of input you want it to be, with the main choices being just pressing the button, double tap, or holding the key. As you adjust the key bindings, the handy keyboard on the right will also show you the button that you're remapping currently and also let you know which keys are open for use. The brighter ones being those that are currently in use, and the darker ones are those that are available. You can also hover over the active keys to see what they are currently bound to. Within the Player tab, you'll find options related to your character's movements as well as interactions, menus and HUD, and communication. In the combat and squad area, you'll of course find a lot related to the combat and item use as well as the commands for your squad. In Vehicle General are, well, the general options related to vehicles, and then you can head over into the ground vehicles section to adjust those key bindings specifically. You can do the same for helicopter, plane, and drone, and finally we have the photo mode, where you'll be able to adjust the keys that will allow you to take all those sweet screenshots. At the very top, you also have presets, which is a super quick way for you to swap between different key binding profiles that you have set up. You can even keybind these different presets if you head over to the bottom area of the player section for all of you that want to swap between your key binding profiles quickly. Backing out into the general mouse and keyboard settings, you can jump into the control scheme area to get an overview of your key binding layout. You can enable or disable hardware cursor in the menu, allowing you to adjust the speed of the X and Y axes if you want. You'll also be able to adjust the Y-axis of your scroll as well as the scroll speed within these menus. Under that, you have a load of options related to your mouse movements, and of course you can invert your look and aim on both the Y and the X axis, as well as adjust the basic sensitivity you have for look and aim. For those of you that are really looking for that perfect setup, you can head into the advanced sensitivities area and adjust everything individually from a ton of different options. Under that, you can also enable left-handed controls and make sure that the cursor doesn't leave the window of the game, and force mouse and keyboard interface if you have a controller plugged in. Similar to all the sensitivities we went through above, you can dive into the vehicles section to tailor them all to your liking as well. After that, let's explore all the options that you'll find in the video settings. Firstly, you can select the active monitor you want the game to be on, as well as which windowed mode you want, with the standard windowed, borderless, and full screen being the options. Borderless will match your desktop settings, but if you're in full screen, you can individually adjust your aspect ratio, resolution, enable or disable VSync, and set your refresh rate. Under that, you have the resolution scale, which allows you to tweak the game's internal rendering resolution without adjusting the display resolution. So if you're looking for a little bit more performance, or you want to push things to the limit, this is the option to adjust. After that, you have the HDR setting for those of you with compatible hardware. HDR FreeSync 2 unlocks your monitor's refresh frequency from your graphics card to prevent tearing, favoring frame pipelining at the same time allowing richer detail in highlights and shadows. Temporal injection uses samples from many frames to give you a crisp, high-resolution image while keeping a smooth frame rate, and anti-aliasing helps keep graphic fidelity by smoothing edges, transparent textures, and particles. After that, we have the foreground and background frame lock options, so you have complete control over the maximum frames the game will run at, depending on if the game window is active or not. Extended FOV allows you to extend the field of view for third-person cameras, however, it won't apply to aim mode cameras. The sharpening option, and specifically Fidelity FX, is something we work together with AMD on implementing. Enabling Fidelity FX enhances local high-frequency contrasts and provides natural sharpness at very low overhead. You can open image calibration, where you can adjust brightness, contrast, and gamma. Additionally, together with AMD, we've implemented Eyefinity that lets you take immersion to the next level by giving you a panoramic experience across your multiple screen setup. Now it's time to dive into the advanced settings. Firstly, you can select a general preset, and you have this handy image on the right to showcase the visual difference between them. At the bottom, you also have VRAM usage based on the settings you have set and the VRAM that you have available. For those of you looking to adjust settings individually, then we definitely got you covered. Firstly, we have ambient occlusion that creates soft shadows between two or more intersecting options. Level of detail adjusts the distance where geometry details lower in quality and the maximum distance where objects will appear. Texture quality affects the resolution and fidelity of in-game textures, with higher settings of course using more VRAM. Next up, we have anisotropic filtering that increases the sharpness level of textures when viewed at long distances. Enabling or disabling the screen space shadows options determines the quality of screen space shadows from directional light sources for sharp and detailed contrast shadows. Terrain quality allows you to adjust the detail of the terrain through the application of tessellation. After that, we have grass quality, where you can adjust the level of detail and maximum draw distance of the game's grass. Screen space reflections lets you select the quality level of reflections on various objects. Next up, we have sun shadows, where you can adjust the quality and level of details of shadows cast by objects when the light source is the sun. Then we have motion blur, which is a velocity-based blurring that is applied when either the camera or objects move rapidly on the screen, and you can choose to enable or disable it. The bloom option feathers the light around borders a bright area and gives you that feeling of an extremely bright light. Up next, we have subsurface scattering, which simulates light being absorbed and diffused while passing through materials. After that, we have lens flare, which simulates the real-life effect appearing when light reflects off a camera lens. Long-range shadows allow you to adjust shadows cast by distant objects at a long range. Volumetric fog allows you to see light beaming through the game's environment. Finally, we have fog background blur, which is a slight blur added to a very foggy area which can be enabled or disabled. Let's talk about the accessibility options that are available in Ghost Recon Breakpoint. First off, you can set up menu narration and enable or disable text-to-speech chat and text-to-speech notifications. From there, you can adjust the narrator's volume, speed, and voice. Following that, you can enable or disable speech to text. After that, we have the same colorblind and subtitle options that we covered in the interface area. Finally, we have the input section, where you can enable simultaneous input, which allows the game to detect input from all devices connected to the PC, and under that, the auto run, throttle, and helicopter throttle key binding can also be enabled to allow for that. Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope that gives you some more information about how you can dive into Ghost Recon exactly the way you want. If you are interested in more information about the game or looking to pick it up yourself, you can find some links in the description below. But until next time, see you later.